Then we have application layer protocol rules. Those are when you have the application layer protocol on the protocol field of the rule. So in this case, it would be alert, HTTP, and then something else, but without any content. Otherwise, we go to, otherwise, we would go to a different type of rule. But so, per packet basis, the action scope is on the flow, and this is something that leads to a different behavior in Suricata 7 from what we had in 6, because these rules are not necessarily tied to a transaction. You can see here that we don't have any keyword that would make the engine have the transaction context. This means that if you have an alert for this rule, starting on Suricata 7, you will not have the app layer metadata for that alert, because we cannot guarantee that whatever transaction that we have there is actually connected to that alert. So before 7, if we had a transaction, we would tie that to the alert. Now we don't. Is this a bug? Is this a feature? We think it's a feature, but we are considering having the option to just match or log whatever transaction we have available last, because our users are used to that. But if you really want to have transaction information, you can also use buffer keywords, and then your rule would be tied to an app layer transaction, and it would be an app layer protocol transaction rule, blah, 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 lots of words, such as this one. So alert HTTP, you can match on the HTTP method, looking for content get, HTTP URI, content unexecutable, and then you have certainly a transaction, and you would avoid what I just mentioned. So the action of a rule like this is the whole flow. It is inspected whenever there's a transaction update. And I mentioned buffer keywords, but also application layer events. I'm not sure if all of them, but at least some of them will be connected to transactions. And also the frame keywords that some of you are already familiar with also fall in this category. I've actually been somewhat faster than expected. These are some of the other things that I wanted to cover in this talk, but I thought that it would be too much. But I wanted to just mention that besides Suricata categorizing the rules that you write in a way that might not be so straightforward to you as you are writing them, there are other things that also impact when you will see the alert, if you will see the alert. So running in IDS or in IPS will have an impact on when the alert happens, because for IDS, we will wait to have the flow act if you are in TCP, whereas with IPS, it's as soon as you match on the traffic, you get the alert. So sometimes we were investigating something internally that we were not sure if it was a bug or not because of this sort of stuff. Suricata as a firewall is a whole new world that we've been trying to sort of reduce the mess around it. If you want to follow this, it would be the story 7164 on our red mine. It does lead to us finding some certain corner cases that otherwise we may not see. One such case is this one, the 7284. This happens when you have what should be, in everyone's understanding, an app layer rule, but if you try to match on the flow, say have flow, not on the flow, but if you want to see if the flow is stateless or not, then it will become not an app layer rule, but a packet rule. And now we are trying to see if we add a configuration to allow this rule to be applied, to have the flow scope. But yeah, we are working closely with AWS to have more information on that, so we can have Suricata work better as a firewall, because no one had challenged us before to do this. As I mentioned briefly, the type of traffic has also an impact, because you may have gaps or not, etc. There are common broken expectations. So for instance, especially if you think from a firewall perspective, you may think that rule order makes a difference, or in rule prioritization, or in matching. It does not for us. And same with the signature ID. Suricata will see that, and it uses it to ensure that there are no duplicated rules, but we will generate our own internal ID. That one is based on prioritization, but we do not expose it. So I would still like to document that better. But you don't have to panic. Just bring a tool to help you better understand what is the behavior that is happening. The best tool that we have at the moment for this would be the engine analysis. You do that, what that does is to run Suricata on a specific mode that will analyze whatever rules you supply it. It needs the -- engine analysis command, then a configuration file and the rules. And it will basically report how the engine sees that rule. One example here, we have a simple alert HTTP rule without content. Suricata will tell us that this is what is the protocol that it sees, what are the requirements, what is the type, and the flags that it has for this rule. Be aware that some output may be available for master, but probably not for older versions. So this may be an issue, depending on which version you are running. Another useful tool that I use a lot, and I used a lot for this presentation, is having Suricata verify tests, because then you can supply your rules, you can tell Suricata what you expect to happen, you give the traffic, and Suricata will run on it and will spit results, and you check if those match. Sometimes you are wrong, sometimes the engine is wrong. Either you fix it or you submit a bug report so we can fix it. And if you know how to create Suricata verify tests, that's great, because having a bug report with a Suricata verify test is great, because we have the baseline to know what is the expected result. We also have engine analysis tests within the Suricata verify folder. So those would be, we have a few, but one of those would be the rule types. I use those a lot for this talk. So you can go there and check and add more and see what's going on if you want. This is not directly related, but it helps in case you write rules and you don't still use the Suricata language server. That is helpful, because it will use the engine analysis output and some other information to help you write better rules. I don't know if it shows the rule type yet. It will soon, I just heard. We are always trying to improve the engine analysis output. We are currently, we have a work in progress for adding a policy that I happen to forget what it will do, but it was important. So I hope we'll see more there soon. As soon as we gather our thoughts around that. If you want, you can check the pull request and give your thoughts. This is always good as well, because we write this sort of stuff so the users can have more information. So telling us what you need helps us. The issue where I'm tracking, or we are tracking, the rule types and properties documentation is 7031, in case you want to follow that. But I hope that before SuriCon is over, we will have that documentation merged. Phew. And I think that's it. Thank you. If you have any questions, Victor is there.
Questions, anybody? Uh-oh.
I don't take questions from him.
No, thanks a lot for this work. I'm coding on SuriCata since more than 10 years, and it's always complicated to go there, and that's the first time I see a clear image of what is there. No, I just want to, I'm okay with, it's super cool to add it to the SuriCata language server, but I will need a clear definition of what is TX, what is a packet that could fit in one line. Sorry for that.
I think that the first version for you could just be to output the type that we have, and then users can always go to the documentation that exists and check the types. But once the documentation is there, I can also try to contribute to it.
Any other questions? Do we have any questions from... Oh, we have one in back. Sorry.
Hey, first off, I just wanted to say I love this talk. I feel like it was aimed directly at me, so thank you for that. Could you go back to the slide with the engine analysis?
This one?
Yep. I know one thing you've been working on is documentation for a lot of this stuff. One thing that I struggle with is understanding what this output is trying to tell me. So I don't know if you've thought at all about documenting like what all this stuff means, like requirements flow, for example, is something that I look at and I don't know what that means. So as part of your documentation work, if you were to like tie those things together with like an explanation of like what this is trying to tell you, I think would be super useful.
I happen to be almost our ticket bot, so I'll try to add a ticket for that. Thank you.